House Speaker Mike Johnson, as well as fellow Republicans, had a front row seat to the immigration crisis at the border. In video taken down at the border, immigrants can be seen literally crossing the Rio Grande in real time as Johnson delivered a press conference on the state of the border crisis. Meanwhile, back here in Washington, White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre agrees that the system is broken, but coming to a solution may be a lot easier said than done.
One thing is absolutely clear. America is at a breaking point with record levels of illegal immigration. And today, we got a firsthand look at the damage and the chaos the border catastrophe is causing in all of our communities.
This immigration system has been broken for decades, and we need to have a bipartisan agreement to move forward on how to deal with the system.
So Johnson has already made clear that H.R. 2 must be a part of any immigration agreement if the Republican majority in the House wants to get on board with the Democrats. H.R. 2, aka Secure the Border Act, would expand the border wall, hire more border agents, bar CBP from processing migrants, and curtail asylum eligibility. But keep in mind, we are just 2 weeks away from a partial government shutdown, which depends on whether H.R. 2 passes. So here to break it down, the battle boiling over the U.S. Mexico border is the Hill staff writer covering all of this, Rafael Bernal. Welcome, Rafael. Thank you so much for sticking with us. There's finger pointing going on both sides. The Biden administration is blaming Republicans. The GOP is saying that Biden's policies are fueling the migrant crisis. Who is at fault here and why?
Well, I would say Washington is at fault because the one striking similarity that H.R. 2 has the previous fights over how to deal with immigration, how to deal with the southwest border, is in 1996, legislation was passed under threat of a shutdown in a budget deal between former President Clinton and former Speaker Newt Gingrich. In 2006, another immigration law was passed, the Secure Defense Act, right when the Senate wanted to leave for Christmas in a hurry. It was just sort of, thrown there. And in this case, you have H.R. 2, which, when it was introduced in the good old days of the McCarthy speakership, it was really seen as a messaging bill. It was seen as a bill that was just a starting point, Republicans sort of setting the stage for a negotiation. But now you see a very real possibility that Democrats will have to choose between shutting the government down, or enacting parts or all of H.R. 2.
Well, Rafael, I want to specifically focus in on H.R. 2 because I've been talking to sources who are saying that the Republicans, they are absolutely willing to have a partial government shutdown later this month if H.R. 2 is not included in these negotiations. So how has the focus now specifically zeroed in on H.R. 2?
It's exactly what you're saying. There is, until December, H.R. 2 or provisions of H.R. 2 were being negotiated in exchange for Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan aid. Now it's the running of government. It's keeping government open. So a lot of these provisions are things that normally Democrats wouldn't even put on the table. Like, they wouldn't negotiate. That's why H.R. 2 was originally seen as a messaging bill. But now these provisions and the White House really opened up the idea that they could be discussed in those previous negotiations in December, and Republicans feel emboldened. They feel like they can win this one, they can get H.R. 2. But the question is really, if it gets enacted, there is very little precedent to think that it will end the border crisis on the short term. So it's a lose-lose for Biden.
A lose-lose for Biden. And then you have the governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, a Republican, who has also emerged as a key policymaker in this national debate outside of Washington, and DOJ officials filing a lawsuit against him.
Now, that lawsuit is very likely to be successful, not because of how the justices and the Supreme Court feel about immigration or not, but because there is that very clear separation that has withstood challenges in the past, where the federal government is in charge of immigration law. If that is overturned, if Abbott's law prevails, all of the challenges and ultimately up to the Supreme Court where it's likely to land, then we will see a complete change in how immigration policy is enforced in this country. And that would be, I mean, that would be a watershed moment, not dissimilar to ending Roe v. Wade.
One word answer, yes or no, before I let you go. Will H.R. 2 be included in the negotiations at the end of the day, coming up to January 19th, not the 17th, January 19th, ahead of that partial government shutdown date?
Yes, in the negotiations.
There you go.